I never realized how much that you're in the new intro that I have. I think you're in it like 3 times.
I'm in it 3 times. Let's pitch in and get JP some lighting. We gotta get you some lighting. It's like it's Batman in the shadows. If you're going for that, cool. But
Oh,
otherwise,
that's good.
no, I'm proud to be there. It's like me and Michael Vick and Puka Nakua and
Yeah,
JP and
yeah,
Verderame. It's a rogues gallery. By the way, we were talking about the CeeDee Lamb breaking news.
yeah.
I hate the expression "he got the bag."
I can agree with that. Yeah, yeah, that's good. I don't
CeeDee
like
Lamb
it.
he secured the bag. Look what he got paid. He got paid.
Yeah,
I mean, like who's the money bag? Like what is that? And it's like you're not providing any information. Like I actually looking at my brain like the contract is done. Oh, they're saying he secured the bag. That must mean it means it's a lot of money. It doesn't mean that he's the highest paid this or whatever. He secured the bag. Thank you.
you know what else I hate, and I think that this is like when I've like actually start realizing that okay, maybe I am like a generation ahead of this new generation, and that I hate the term aura. I think we've already overused the piss out of that one. Uh, we need to retire that immediately. I hate that a lot.
Right. That's a good meaningless one. Cam Newton used that a little bit. He would talk about his aura.
Cam, I don't recall Cam using that too much. Did he?
I think he used it late in his career, talking about why he couldn't stay with the Patriots after he lost his job to Mac Jones. Like his aura was not that of a backup quarterback, and that kind of
that is ringing a bell. You're right. Okay.
Yeah, it crossed into the NFL sphere with that, but I think that's more of a your generation term because
Yeah, I don't own that. That is very much. I know that I have a tendency to kind of be an old man yelling at clouds about a lot of stuff, and that is one of them. Yeah, I can agree with the get the bag thing. It's stupid, very dumb.
I also have a problem with "we are so back."
That one's funny though. I think that one's more of like an ironic thing.
It's just like here we go, and here's a highlight of some guy running against third stringers for a 10-yard touchdown. Oh, we are so back.
Speaking of Mac Jones, you mean that you're not on the Mac Jones was never the problem in New England train?
That train needs to have somebody like throw something in front of the tracks for heaven's sake.
Oh, that's fantastic. All right. Yes. Hi, I'm Jarrett Bailey. Welcome to the Pump Fake, everybody. Joined today by my good friend, Mike Tanier. You can go and read Too Deep Zone at miketanier.substack.com. Good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, you too, man. I was just on Lombardo and I are doing a podcast, Matt Lombardo from behind the hash marks, and everything was back to school stuff, like talking back to school stuff. I don't have to talk back to school stuff with you. You're just living.
I am no more school. I do feel a little bit old though, because like I'm starting to get memories pop up in my phone. And I think 2 days ago was 7 years to the day that I moved into my like freshman dorm. I was like, Jesus Christ, 7 years. Like that's now I'm starting to like really feel my mid-20s. And really like it's like
go fuck yourself. I'm starting to feel my mid-20s. Go fuck yourself. My mid-20s. If I could feel my mid-20s right now, you would not be able to get me on the phone for weeks.
Oh, fuck. That was funny. That was good. It's just funny, too, because, like, we see players get drafted today. It's like, oh, you were born in 2002. All right, that's not good. I'm really starting to feel it. That's crazy.
I mean, they are coming in younger than my oldest son now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in the case of guys like Bryce Young coming in later than both of my sons, so it's like it is a whole different world now.
It is very crazy. Today, NFC over unders for Tanier and I. We'll go through every team in the NFC. We'll be using FanDuel odds just because that's what I have in front of me. We can run through a few different ones if if there's a deal on a certain sports book. No sports book sponsors this podcast, but anyone who wants to, I am open for business. So give me a call. So, I mean, we'll start in the NFC East just because that's kind of the division of buzz right now. And I guess we can start with Dallas. FanDuel has them over under 9.5. They just paid CeeDee Lamb there's still going to be some outside noise surrounding what are they going to do with Dak Prescott. I think that if I had to guess, I've kind of been saying this all offseason, probably going to be his last year in Dallas. I think they're going to go like the Vikings route of this, where they're going to pay the really good receiver, draft a scheme fit quarterback that hopefully works. Although with the Cowboys, it feels like they're going to go for like the big name. So I can definitely see like Shador Sanders being their quarterback next year.
Oh,
wow. So yeah.
Shador and Prime coming in as a match set. Perfect.
Yeah, maybe.
I thought you meant the Viking route meant that they were just going to set their boats on fire. That's what I thought you were going for.
I mean, I'll give credit to Minnesota for this. They said, all right, we can either pay Kirk and drag this thing out with Justin Jefferson, or we can just pay Justin Jefferson, go forward to the younger quarterback, bring in a guy who we think fits Kevin O'Connell. And like, I'm not like the biggest JJ guy, but I mean, if there's a place that he can succeed, it would be Minnesota. With Dallas, I think it's going to be, all right, we're going to do the most flashy thing possible after paying CeeDee Lamb. Prime's already said, just because the team wants to draft him doesn't mean that we're going to let him go there. Like, oh my God, all this Colorado bullshit that we're going to have to listen to for the next 9 months. Mm-hmm. So I could definitely see that being a thing where if Mike McCarthy isn't there, all right, Prime and Shador to Dallas, let's do it.
Yeah. You're right. It's definitely something that could happen, but good God. But that 9.5 number, it's like, this is a good team. This is a really, really good team. With front end talent alone, you should be able to crack your 10 wins, even if you say that, they're gutted at running back and like their depth is gutted. This is a strong team. By the way, the 9.5, I have it up right now, but it's at over minus 145. So
they're trying to get you to kind of lean into that under to see what it can get you.
Right. So I just took a quick look, and if you tease it to 10.5, if you believe that's an 11-win team, and I think that should be an 11-win team, you can get up to plus 150 on the Cowboys.
Ooh, okay, that could be some good value there. I don't know where I fall on them. I think 9.5 is probably like that sweet spot for me. If you remember, I think, what was it, 2 years ago, they made the playoffs for the first time in consecutive seasons since 06-07. And they've just been this violently inconsistent team, like overall as a franchise, where they'll have, a really good year and then somewhat of a down year. Never awful, but like, 8 wins, 9 wins, and just miss out on the playoffs. And I don't think it's an issue for like when it comes to talent. Dak's still very good. CD obviously just got paid. Michael Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, Trayvon Diggs coming back from injury. They do have Deron Bland, who's going to be on the shelf for 6 to 8 weeks with an injury. But I mean, overall, this is a really talented team. I think more or less the outside noise could be a factor in all of this, where we're going to be talking about, all right, Dak's probably going to be leaving. Is Dak going to try to outdo himself to try to get as much money as he can? Maybe. I just think it's a weird feel for Dallas right now. But I mean, that division should guarantee them at least 5 wins. In terms of, I think they should beat the Commanders twice, beat the Giants twice, and split with the Eagles. So, I mean, right there, that's more than half of your 9.5, where you're like, all right, maybe.
Yeah, and it's hard not to come up with the 4 wins against the Giants and Commanders. It's hard, even as an Eagles fan, like that looks like a split.
Yeah.
And the DVOA ranking for their schedule is 23rd.
Right.
That's a relatively easy schedule, part fueled by the Giants and the Commanders, which are probably 4 wins. So, yeah, it's almost like that spread, that over-under, is suppressed, has baked into it all of the chatter, all of the negativity, and that there's meat on the bone of saying, well, look past that. CD's under contract now. Dak's got to play to cash in. So, again, if I'm going to go over, and I don't bet on the Cowboys, if I'm going to, you see Reggie's over my shoulder. He'll throw in his grave. I would take it up to 10.5, and I would try to get some action, some meat on the bone there to, make it a little more worth your while.
Absolutely. Your Philadelphia Eagles are 10.5, which I think is fair. You look at the roster, that's never been an issue in Philadelphia. They had the really bad collapse at the end of last year, where they lose out on the division, then get eliminated by the Bucs. By the way, something about Jalen Hurts playing the Buccaneers in the wild card round. He's done it twice now, and he hasn't won there yet. So, they bring in a bunch of new guys this offseason, where they say, all right, we'll bring in Kellen Moore. We'll hope that Vic Fangio is the answer on defense, which, to be fair, I highly doubt it'll be worse than Matt effing Patricia. So good for them on that end. I like the way that they drafted, which isn't new. I mean, Philadelphia usually drafts well. They signed Saquon Barkley. They locked down A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. This is a team that should bounce back. I think it's just going to come down to, okay, is the head coach the right answer? Like, I think that there's a real conversation to be had there on whether or not Philadelphia, if they don't meet expectations, if maybe they're on the in the head coaching carousel looking to maybe bring in a Mike Vrabel or somebody. So that's the biggest storyline for the Eagles for me. I think 10.5 is fair. I would probably like them and Dallas. I think are going to be very much head and head once again, as they usually are. 10.5. If everything goes right, then yeah, that's a pretty easy. I'll bet the over. But if there's this internal dilemma between QB and head coach, that is one where we could see it fall apart pretty quickly.
Internal dilemma is part of it. The transition to these totally new schemes.
That too.
The Fangio scheme is tricky to learn and adopt. They were, quote unquote, playing a version of it last year. I don't know what they were doing last year with Pinky and the Brain as their coordinators. Kellen Moore's scheme is diametrically opposite of Sirianni's in a lot of ways. So, there's a non-catastrophe scenario for the Eagles where it's not like, oh, they're at each other's throats again and Sirianni's just a figurehead. Where it's like, oh, you get a couple losses early in the season while you're adjusting, while you're transitioning, and then suddenly you're in danger of not getting up to 11 wins. So, for me, the 10.5 is right on the number. I would probably lean over on it. I think the juice on that is not very good. The juice on that is minus 130.
Yeah, for FanDuel, it's minus 148 as of a few days ago. I don't know if it's changed in that time, but yeah, it's nothing great there.
Right, and the Eagles to win the division were at minus 125. That's not great. So,
not great.
I'm leaning on these things. I would say the Eagles are probably overvalued right now by the house, and let it simmer. If you didn't get it in May or before the draft, maybe not get it in now.
That's valid. The New York Giants.
Blech.
Oh God, over under 6.5, but the over is plus money, is plus 116 if they get over 6.5. I'm hammering the under here. This is year 6 of Daniel Jones. Mike, did you see that interception that he threw against Houston in the end zone where he's falling down and just throws it into the lap of a Texans defensive back, and it's a pick six? What are we doing, man?
I think a term I used was he panic farted a dead pigeon. This is a 6-year quarterback that is still talked about like he's a prospect. Like he was in the league 2 years before Joe Burrow was in the league. We're talking about developing and adjusting to the system. My God, if Drake May made that throw, people are like, well, he ain't ready. Jacoby Brissett's got to start the season. Daniel Jones does it, and it's like, well, you know what? At least it's showing that his injuries, he's recovered from his injuries. It's Groundhog Day for the Giants. This team is in a permanent embryonic state, and they've forgotten how long it's been. This dates back to 2018. This dates back to before the pandemic. You're like, well, I don't know. Maybe Daniel Jones might be showing signs that he's coming around. It's never happening. It's never happening.
So, and you'll have these quarterback gurus who either used to play in the league or just really in depth with quarterback play and be like, well, Daniel Jones, there might be it can be. Not every guy has the potential to be a star. Sometimes it's as cut and dry as he stinks. Okay, he's never been great. He had one season where the Giants got into the playoffs off the strength of their offensive line not stinking at Saquon Barkley being Saquon Barkley, where he threw 15 touchdown passes, and the Giants were like, shit, I guess we got to pay him. You can admit that he's what he is. You could have moved on then, cut your losses, and upgraded, but you decided to stay and sink your feet even deeper in the sand, and now you're kind of laying in the bed that you unfortunately made for yourself. So the Giants have no one to blame for themselves here, or no one to blame but themselves here. I like the addition of Brian Burns. That's pretty cool, but I don't see them getting to 7 wins off the strength of a good pass rusher. You're
talking about the ex-quarterback gurus. Going back to the Cowboys for a second, Trey Lance throws 5 interceptions. But he runs for a touchdown on a zone read against the third string. I forget who they were playing. I apologize.
Chargers, maybe?
It was the Chargers, yes. They were just out of their elevator catastrophe, and they were off the field, and they were still sweating. Mm-hmm. And with RG3 and Chase Daniel come in with the, it's kind of a mixed bag with this guy. It's like, no, it's not. You're running a zone read in the third quarter of the preseason game, That's what you do with the undrafted rookie. If you're doing that with your 4th-year pro, 5th-year pro, you're saying we got nothing. We know this guy can run, so we'll put some positive stuff on tape so guys stay energized out there. This is nothing, and they do the same thing with Daniel Jones, where it's like because later in that game with the panic fart pigeon, he dropped a little dime to Darius Slayton. It was a nice throw. He's been dropping little dimes to Darius Slayton twice a month for the last 6 years. If you're still getting fooled by it, then you have the object permanence of a goldfish.
It's quarterbacks like that. I call them period quarterbacks because they show up once a month. And, no, none of that.
Flag in the play. No.
I thought that was good. All right, fine, whatever. Of all the things I've said on shows with you, and that's the one where you're out on. Come on,
That's the one. Hard out on that one. Yeah,
that's where you're drawing the line. Whatever. All right, fine. I'll be in my boat alone. Yeah, he'll make like a few of those throws, and it's sandwiched between 2 soul-crushing interceptions. Like I just don't get it. So yeah, I'll take the under on the Giants. The Commanders are also over under 6.5. The line for that, or the money for that, is -120. So they're tempting you more with the Giants than the Commanders. Jan Daniels looks solid in preseason. It just comes down to, do we believe in Dan Quinn as a head coach, but do we believe in Cliff Kingsbury as an offensive coordinator? And my answer to that second one is a resounding no.
Hell no. Hell no. I'm trying to make sense. I just got to avoid this Commanders bet because 6.5 is kind of on the number for me for them.
Okay.
And I would be tempted over almost because I can see a 7th win squeaking in there, but that's at -130. But I'm trying to tease it around to something I like. And I just hate it. But I think that there's enough veterans to say, well, that's your 6-11, 7-10 team because Bobby Wagner's making tackles and my phone is going nuts. So give me a second.
I see that. Yeah, no. Did somebody else get signed? Should we check to see if we have breaking news here on the bump?
I'm trying to look that up. I'm setting on the silence. And
no, I think it's just more CeeDee Lamb stuff. Uchenna Nwosu suffered a sprained MCL. That was another one.
That won't make my phone blow up. That's not phone blow up.
Yeah, no, I'm just looking through all my notifications right now. I think it's just mostly CeeDee Lamb stuff that keeps coming out about like, oh, what's the annual average value of this contract? So
right, and again, folks like you who are kind of forced to always feed the machine, having to come up with that hot take on great player gets lots of money season pending.
Correct. But luckily, my portion of that is done for the day. I've done my part for big content. I think the Commanders, I think they did do enough where you bring in a Bobby Wagner, you bring in a Frankie Louvu, who I really enjoy, friend of the channel, Frankie Louvu, by the way. Austin Eckler, like Terry McLaurin, they did just trade away Jahan Dotson. So I mean, they must really believe in one of these receivers that they have. They drafted the McCaffrey kid, De'Ami Brown. So they've got some pieces. It's going to come down to, can the offensive line at least keep Jayden Daniels upright, and can the defense, take a step forward from what they were last year, which isn't going to be a hard thing to do. They were last in the NFL in EP per play, but with no Jack Del Rio there, that should see a default jump in terms of that going up. So I think that they can be good. I think Dan Quinn will do some good stuff with the defense. We'll see what Cliff does with the offense. I don't have high hopes for that per se, but I think that it could be enough to get him to around 6 wins, 7 at the most.
Right. So it's why play this? Why gamble?
Yeah,
it's not fun. It's not a fun bet. Yeah.
It's not. Yeah, that's very much for if you make a bet on this and you're holding your breath throughout the season, maybe call the hotline and see if you I think that's probably your best option there.
Love it.
NFC West will be fun. The 49ers are at over under 11.5 wins at +126 on the over. So I think, that surprised me a little bit. That's a team that's consistently won around 11, 12, 13 games over the past handful of years, aside from the years where they have injuries at quarterback. I think it's the same old story for the 49ers. Although I will say this, I had Greg Rosenthal on last week, and he made the point of, eventually there's going to be one year where they don't get lucky with, the injury bug. They didn't have a ton of injuries at all last year. Right, eventually the war of attrition will set in. They've played a ton of extra games as compared to other teams over the past few seasons. And not that they'll be bad. It's just, they'll take a miniature step back where, they'll go 10-7 maybe. I think that that's certainly possible, especially with, all the, similar to Dallas, all the Ayuk noise, now the Trent Williams stuff. They've got, is Dre Greenlaw, when's he going to be back? They got to worry about, okay, eventually paying Brock Purdy. So there's a lot of stuff that they're dealing with internally as well. But 11.5, that feels like one that, you look at their division, and we'll touch on the other teams in the division, but 11.5, I mean, that feels right on the nose as to where I would probably put them.
Right. The DVOA projection is at 11.3, and DVOA projections tend to be conservative. So when you're getting up into those higher echelons, you kind of you boost it sort of mentally a little bit. I had forgotten that they were a 12-win team last year. I guess I had 14 wins in my brain, but they did have these 3-game losing streak because literally something went wrong. A thing went wrong. Oh, Debo's hurt.
A singular thing.
Right. A singular thing happened to them. They're dealing with injury. And they fell apart. And I like doing those jokes, but there's a difference between doing those jokes and putting money behind
it. Yes.
And I would lean over if you're seeing a catastrophe in potential, and like 2020 was kind of like the catastrophe year where Garoppolo got hurt and they went 6. And you almost want to like take the number down to like 9.5 and do an under and get something crazy out of that.
Oh.
Like plus 350. I don't advocate for it, but once you start saying, well, what happens if these guys, Ayuk gets traded tomorrow and blah, 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 you might as well go big on it because, it's like, and then they go 10-7. I don't know if they go 10-7 in those situations. I think that they crater, but if things are normal, they win 13 games.
Yeah, I mean, if they trade Brandon Ayuk, I mean, they don't really have a legit number one guy who can separate, as an X receiver. Debo's great, but I mean, his game isn't, I'm a route technician who can separate the line of scrimmage. I'm the running back / receiver who can do a bunch of fun gadget stuff. Yeah. So that would put them in a little bit of like, I don't care how good Kyle's schemes are. We saw it in the Super Bowl. If you can't separate, then you're going to be a little bit SOL when you face good teams when it matters.
Yeah, at the 12-13 win, it can't be about, we schemed this up.
Right.
They can win town on town, but if you start subtracting pieces, then it's a different story.
All right, the Los Angeles Rams in that division, over under 8.5. I'm teasing that up to probably like 9.5 or maybe even 10.5. I think that they are very good in being a little bit slept on. I know that Aaron Donald being gone obviously affects the defense, but they brought in a few pieces. I brought in Cam Curl from Washington, Tre'Davious White in the secondary to make that unit a little bit better. Overall, I mean, the offense is going to be awesome. We're big Matthew Stafford fans over here. And yeah, I think what Sean McVay did last year with the offense and really leading into the more like power run stuff as well was really good. So I like the Rams. I think that they have not only a chance to win, 10, 11 games, I think they could win the division outright and maybe surprise some people.
Well, if you think they can win the division outright, you play that.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what I could pull it up right now. I don't want to get off the win-loss page on my I'll never get back on my sports book. But I want to check the overall health of the offense right now because there's all these various little injuries that like all had a week 1 timeline, and I apologize, I'm not up to the minute on that. 8.5, like 9's the number.
Okay.
And unfortunately, where I'm at right now, I'm on DraftKings. You can't tease up to 9.5. You can tease up to 10.5. Which is plus 195. Now, if you're feeling it, I would look at this and say 10-7 is so possible and feasible.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that. But yeah, the 8.5, the over is at not minus 160. That's another sign. They don't want the action that much.
Yeah.
They also don't want to put a 9.5 out there for people to play. So
yeah, I mean, it's not worth throwing $50 on that if you're going to make like 30 in return. If that, like, what do you find something? Find something in a sports book, tease it to something that's more fun if you really believe in them. Yeah, that's a team that I'm really high on. And like I said, I think that especially if those things do go wrong for the 49ers and they crater a little bit, that leaves the door wide open for McVay and the Rams to pounce on. What do you said on the Geno Smith discourse? I feel like he's kind of become like the litmus test for like a lot of people. We're like, all right, if you like Geno, you're all right. If you don't like Geno Smith, go fuck yourself. Like that seems to be like the line in the sand that a lot of people draw.
I mean, I'm so checked out of what the film bros say now because they add zero actual knowledge at this point. And I saw it because they are very bright individuals who do a lot of great work and work a lot of very hard and have a lot of knowledge. They bring zero information to the debate because they create these little anthills. Yeah. And they stand on top of them with their little short sword and they wave it around like fucking Frodo. And it's like, if you're still like trying to litigate Geno Smith, who had played lights out for, I guess, 7 or 8 games, had comeback player of the year, earned it on merit, went back to and went back not to where he was, which was,
Right.
in the dirt and the muck, but went back to sort of being this third quartile quarterback who has some positive traits. That's what he is.
Yes, of course.
Yes, he's not going to develop because he's in his 30s. He's still somewhat mobile. He's a little more savvy. He is somewhere between quarterback 15 and 25 in the NFL. And now it's about talking about the supporting cast. If you have some amazing thing built on some piece of tape that you watched for 3.5 hours, like it was the Zapruder footage, does it substantively change the fact that Geno Smith does not make this team a contender or a last place team? Does that change that substantively?
That's the thing. Like, they are very much like the definition of NFL purgatory right now to me, where they certainly aren't like a horrible team, but they're not by any means a Super Bowl contender. So the over under 7.5, I think that's perfect. Like, they can probably be an 8-9 team this year, and that's probably where I would put them. And like, I think that Geno's perfectly fine as a quarterback. I think he's a perfectly, right in the middle guy who has a really pretty deep ball. But I don't think that he's moving the needle and making Seattle this, feared team in the NFC. I think he's a solid start, definitely a starting capable quarterback and better than a lot of the other guys, but he's not in that tier of guys where like he changes and gives you like 2 extra wins just because he's that good. So I think 7.5 is probably a good spot for the Seahawks, especially with the coaching change and everything, a lot of turnover in terms of like players on the defensive side of the ball. So I think that 7.5 is a fine number.
Yeah, that's fine. I have questions. I don't know what the offense is going to look like. I don't know what Mike McDonald's defense is going to look like. A lot of similar guys, especially on offense, to the last couple of years. And yeah, it's 7.5 minus 150 to go over. I'd go over if I felt like there was a meat on it. But,
yeah. The Cardinals, though, I think that they could be a very fun offensive team. When I was talking with Greg Rosenthal last week, we both had Cardinals takes, and mine was that I think the Cardinals could be a top 10 offense in the league this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm really in on what Drew Pensing did last year. I think that their run game in the second half of the year was second in the NFL in EPA behind only the 49ers. You add Marvin Harrison Jr. I think that Michael Wilson's a solid 2 receiver on the outside. Trey McBride, tight end, a lot of people are high on, and I don't think their defense is going to be very good, so they're going to have to score points out of necessity if they want to stay in some games. So their over under is 7.5, and it is plus 124. So if you think that their offense can be good enough to get them to 8 wins, that's a fun one to make. I think I would still probably lean the under and go like right at 7 and 10.
I got 6.5 right now on DraftKings.
Okay.
At minus 150, I would not go under 6.5. 7.5 7.5 is kind of on the number. I just can't be as sanguine as you are about that offense right now. I don't know what their offensive line actually looks like. I'm not a Michael Wilson stan. I don't know what else I can't remember off the top of my head what else is there besides Marvin Harrison Jr. because they had all the goofy guys that like Steve Keim brought in, and they sent them across the world.
They sure did.
They're all hurt, like Marquise Brown and these other guys got hurt. But that's on the number. It's on the number around 7.5. It's go with your gut. You have a stronger take than anyone I think outside of Arizona has on the Arizona Cardinals. Let's put it that way.
Rosenthal said that he thinks Kyler's going to be a top 5 MVP candidate.
Oh, okay. I get there's a degree to which I've slept on Kyler, and he played well in the second half of last year.
He did.
So that's not crazy. It's like if I'm doing that, I'm dark horsing Kyler for Offensive Player of the Year or MVP.
Sure.
That's how I might approach that.
Yeah, I think that Kyler's in for a solid year, and I think that not having Cliff Kingsbury running the offense will be, for the first time for like a full year, that'll be really good for him, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do offensively. All right, let's go to the NFC North. And speaking of the film bros, if I see one more person that I respect in our line of work talk about Sam Darnold, I'm going to flip, and it's nothing against it. I used to drive the Sam Darnold train. When he ended up in Carolina, I was like, all right, Sam Darnold revenge tour coming up. And they started off 3-0. And I took a very preemptive victory lap. And then, of course, everything fell apart. Yeah, it's same thing with Daniel Jones, I guess to a little bit lesser of a degree, because I think Sam Darnold might be better than Daniel Jones. But if I the same people that will clown one team, being a Steelers fan, like I've heard the discourse all preseason, so the Steelers are going to fall apart. Look at what they have at quarterback. And these same people will be like, the Vikings, man, look at Sam Darnold. Look at this throw he made against the Cardinals in week 1 of the preseason. This could be good. I don't know what we're doing, man. Like, I believe in Kevin O'Connell. I think that he's one of the better play callers in the NFL. Flores' defense will be fun. I can't talk myself into the Vikings over 7.5 with just a quarterback who's constantly proven that he's not consistent enough to lead a winning team.
I was joking about Chase Daniel earlier, RJ3 earlier, into your rant. I mean, and this goes out to the people that we respect, we trust.
Sure.
If you're breaking down super analysis on preseason football against backups and third stringers, you're doing it wrong. And I see it, and I say it again, like bright people we like, people we trust. Oh, well, look at this. It's totally different from what we've seen in the past. Of course it is, because that's a third stringer. The people rushing him are third stringers. Yeah, the people catching the ball are third stringers too, but he's out there playing the game in rookie mode.
Yeah.
He is. And this sort of like micro focus thing that might work well when you're doing analysis in week 2 and week 3, you are adding distortion to your opinions when you're watching these preseason games and taking it away. Put the telestrator down. Put the all 22 down. Go with your general impression and go with the 4 years that you have of real football before this, not with what you're seeing right now. So that applies to Sam Darnold, to Trey Lance, to anyone else you have out there. And the one thing about this is right now they're at 6.5. I'd go over 7.5.
I think you could talk me into 7 and 10 Vikings. I think that's fine.
Right. I can't go up to 7. If you go up to 7, you get plus 155, but I can't go. You like that? Yeah. 7.5. So you don't get the push.
Oh man, that's rough.
You see 8 and 9? You see 8
and 9? I don't what did they go last year? Were they 7 and 10 last year?
I think they were, with all of those quarterback rambles.
That might be where I go back on what I just said, because they played like 13 different quarterbacks last year and still scavenged at least 7 wins, I believe. So that maybe at plus 150, I might throw a little bit on it just for funsies. And if it comes true, then all right, great. And if not, then whatever. You took a chance. I think 8 and 9 is their absolute ceiling, though. I don't see a winning record in Minnesota.
And the other trick, by the way, when you're talking about stuff like that is, well, the 6.5, I don't like the juice. Oh, and like Washington, but I don't like the juice. Parlay them.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good call.
Right. I'm not going to sit here and try to do that on this because it would take forever.
Sure.
But you can come up with a little 3-team thing where you get up to plus 155, and you can put whatever dollar amount on it. And then again, you're waiting 4 months for the results, but it's a couple different things you can check on at the same time.
Yes. All right. Now to my Super Bowl pick out of the NFC, the Green Bay Packers. They are over under 9.5.
Yes.
That is crazy to me. I think they smash that and go over 9.5. I'm a big believer. I've gone on record and say I think they're going to be the number 1 seed in the NFC this year. I think they're going to be awesome.
I know you are over the moon for them because they fixed their defense this year just like they did last year, year before.
They got rid of Joe Barry. That's a good start.
Right, just like they got rid of Mike Pettin and they got rid of
I forgot about the Mike Pettin backers.
Mike Pettin and it was Dom Capers originally, but he was.
Was it Dom? Oh wow!
It was somebody who was a legend, but like got beaten by the zone read. It might have been Dom Capers. I might be mixing old coordinators together.
Maybe.
But you have them at 9.5. Now, if you tease it, I'm checking their schedule right now. You tease it at 10.5, you can get plus 150 and go over.
Yeah, I would take the over on the 10.5.
Yeah, I would go. I wouldn't mind. You just 11-6 isn't that hard.
No, especially when if you have a great quarterback and you set their over under at 9.5, I will more often than not smash that. Like that feels easy to me. And
you're on board with Jordan Love.
I'm in love. I am in love. Yes, absolutely. I think that he's fantastic. So I'm riding the Jordan Love train. I'm riding the Matt LaFleur train. I think defensively, like they brought in Xavier McKinney at safety, which I think makes their secondary better. A situation where, similar to the Commanders getting rid of Jack Del Rio, I know that we just mocked the Packers for going through defensive coordinators like they're hotcakes, but hopefully this time around things work out. I honestly don't even remember who they brought in as defensive coordinator, so forgive me, listeners. For
it could be anybody. I don't. Let me pull it up right here.
Yeah,
I can't pull it up. Sorry.
So I think that year 2, Jordan Love as a starter, we saw what he did. By the way, you look at the numbers that he put up last year. The first half of the season was very much up and down. It was the second half of the year where he figured things out and was first in EPA per play, first in touchdown passes, first in yards, first in QB. He was just first across the board and everything. I think that he could very well have an MVP type season, and all those receivers that they have where they don't really have a number one, they just have a bunch of B+ dudes, and it works. So I really like Green Bay. I think that they are going to be a very big force in the NFC.
Yeah, B+ dudes with upside.
Yeah,
and I guess what I saw from week 9 or week 10 on looked like an MVP. I guess I'm not feeling my mid-20s anymore, and so when I see those, it's like, okay, here's the low, and then here's the high, and then where do we fall in here? Because it's like an idea that's going to continue forever. That's a Hall of Famer. Mm-hmm. Let's see where it's at in between. But I can get to 10 wins. I can get to 11. I can certainly get to 10 wins based on, the defense sort of coming towards the middle and all those young receivers coming together and them continuing where they left off to a degree last year.
Absolutely. The Detroit Lions are projected to win the division at over under 10.5. That is at -132. I think Detroit should be. I mean, this is the second straight year they've retained Ben Johnson as offensive coordinator, and they got better defensively as well. They drafted really well. They bring in DJ Reader, who it looks like all systems go for him. He's off the pup list. Offensively, I think they're going to be as good as they were last year. They brought back literally everybody. They added Kevin Zeitler to the offensive line as well. So there's no reason why Detroit won't be very good. I don't think they're going to win the division. Like I said, I think Green Bay will do that, but I think that Detroit will probably be the top wildcard team and try to get back to where they were last year, which is a few dumb calls away from getting to the Super Bowl.
That's it. And very quiet off season. I mean, they did add Reader, they added some other pieces, but not super splashy things.
Yeah,
not like the Eagles, which were very splashy. A lot of player maintenance, and another effort to repair that secondary, which is their biggest issue. And there you're at the mercy of health and things like that. But you don't want to call them under the radar because Dan Campbell is a famous person and they made the NFC Championship. But because there's not all this talk and smoke around them, it's easy to overlook how good they are.
Yeah.
And again, I like them as a 11-win team. I don't think that's a heavy lift for them. So I would go over there.
Yeah, I think that Green Bay and Detroit could both go 11-6, or one of them could go 12-5 while the other goes 11-6. I think that those will be both very poignant teams in the NFC. So I'm very, very high in Detroit, very high in Green Bay. And you know what? The more I might be drinking the Kool-Aid too much, but the Chicago Bears.
I'm going to warn you. All these wins have to come from somewhere.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I believe in the Vikings. I believe in the Packers. I believe in the Lions.
Let the record show. I very much on the Vikings are they could be fine. I don't think they're going to be winners. Okay. I do think maybe you're right here though. I might be drinking the Bears Kool-Aid a little bit too much, but we talk about that preseason Kool-Aid. I might regret a little bit of the Caleb Williams stuff, but it does look pretty good, Mike. It looks pretty good.
It's fine. It's fine. You in America are going to anyway. Where are we going with the Bears? Are you going? What do you have?
They're over under 8.5, which is at -160 right now. I mean, if you want to take the under, you could probably get good money on that if they go 8-9, 7-10. In my first iteration of game by game picks, which I do the day the schedule comes out, I had them at 9-8 and the number 7 seed in the NFC. So we'll see. We'll see if that repeats itself when I do it again before week 1. But I think that roster-wise, they are set up for success. And if Caleb Williams is, the 15th, 16th best quarterback in the NFL, that's, a good start with the roster they have around them. Defensively, they have guys at all 3 levels that I really like. I think that they need one more edge rusher to complement Montez Sweat to really complete the set. But they have a lot of players on that side of the ball. I really like Jalen Johnson. I think Tyreek Stevenson can take a nice step forward. Kyler Gordon as well. They've got a bunch of young talent on that side of the ball that I really enjoy. And then, we've talked at length about, all right, they've got a Dunze, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore for Caleb Williams to throw to. It just comes down to how good the quarterback is right off the bat and how long it takes him to really get it.
I don't like their offensive line very much.
That's fine. I agree.
Defensive line is okay. Their secondary is pretty good. It's a lot of prospects in Johnson kind of, and also Byard running around, and Byard's toast. The projection from the Almanac is 6.5 wins.
Okay, so around 7-ish.
Yeah, around 7. One of the lower projections because again, it's usually conservative on both sides there. Yeah. I think Caleb Williams is going to be a very, very good NFL quarterback. I think people are going to be in for a surprise who have been watching him roll to the right every single time and throw the same pass over and over again and acting like they saw an alien land in Central Park. I'm going to take that. What was it? 8.5?
8.5.
I'm going to take it down to 7.5, and I'm going to take the under at plus 215.
Oh, wow. That is very good odds for the under, isn't it?
Right, and then go 7-10 and still have a positive season from Caleb.
Good season, yeah.
Yeah, and I can get plus 215 on that, and I feel 100% comfortable there. 100% comfortable.
Here, hold on. We're starting to. I'm finding a way to include this into every show, and I meant to do it earlier with Sam Darnold, but I failed to do so. But where are we going to put Caleb Williams on the Pickett to Patrick quarterback scale?
Well, he's in that yellow beige maize range somewhere. Yeah, like butter that's been left out too long. Like that
That's good. Yeah, I think that's fair to start.
Or somebody's pee on like the fourth night of the combine in the morning after they're hungover, like that color. Somewhere in there. We're never gonna put anybody on the poor Pickett on the Pickett end of that. Never.
The dehydrated pea colored portion of that scale. Yeah, that's
actually a great place to be.
It's a great place to be on that scale. If you're in the dark orange, you're great. That's great.
We are pro dehydrated urine here at the Pump Fake.
Absolutely. Yes, we are. I think that covers all of the NFC North, which just leaves us with God help us, the NFC South. Speaking of piss, here comes the New Orleans Saints. And Dennis Allen, 7.5 is their over under at minus 122. I had shots on a little bit ago.
So you know what's coming.
Yes, I do. He's just like, they're not a bad team, they're just a boring team. I was like, Aaron, I think they're bad. I think that they're both. I don't like what they are, man.
Aaron has mastered the really faint praise of the Saints because I mean that goes with the projections, and I have his projections in my hand. 31st schedule, second easiest schedule in the NFL. I almost feel like I'm not going to pull it up because I don't think we need it right now. We know what an NFC South schedule looks like. Yeah, it's not good. And they are boring and they are mediocre, but like it's the same guys who win 8-9 games. It's the exact same guys who win 8-9 games every year. Yeah. And you're going to go under 7.5?
I think that there's a world where like the wheels just fall off of Derek Carr and Chris Olave is just about to punch him in the huddle. And eventually, if they start off slow and say they're like 2-5, 2-6, maybe they just move on from Dennis Allen before the season's over and turn the keys over to Spencer Rattler and see what they have, because a lot of people seem to really enjoy him in the preseason.
He's not going to be the Hayner's the number 2. Hayner's the number 2. I know people are all Spencer Rattler because Spencer Rattler clicks. Yeah. But Hayner's because one of them's famous and one isn't.
I got to tell you, man, I saw Jake Haener up close in person in the 2022 Senior Bowl, and I saw Spencer Rattler up close in person at this Senior Bowl, and I know which one I think is better, and it ain't Jake Haener.
Okay, fair. Yeah, I'm not a Rattler stan by any stretch, but I did not get to see him practice live. I did not get to see him this year. And one thing about that team, by the way, is the way their ownership structure and everything is still kind of a mess. It's hard to get Dennis Allen out of the saddle because, like, Loomis is running things and he's doing things a certain way, and there's no one minding the store ahead of him. So it's like that old Boston market that's still going strong down by the highway, even though the company's bankrupt. Like, you can't fire the manager because who fires the manager? Nobody. Right. Nobody's in charge. I'm not as worried about the wheels falling off of Carr because I think they already have and no one noticed.
That's fair. Yeah.
It's Jordan and Honey Badger and Demario Davis and all those guys.
They're all 90. They're so old.
Right. Right. So the super soldier serum wears off, or the cocoon stuff, or the Viagra, or whatever it is keeping them young, wears off, and it happens all at once, and it hits Taysom as well. So he's not even good enough for 3rd and 3.
Oh my goodness.
3.5-yard run, and that hits. But for a 7.5 for now, go over.
Mixing the super soldier serum with Viagra, that's the next phase in the Marvel series.
Yeah,
just everybody's fighting crime while being sexually frustrated.
No one's going to our movies anymore. Let's let them start banging. Let's let them start banging on screen. Let's see if that works.
Oh my! That should just be the title of the next movie. Is like the Avengers. They fuck now.
Everyone's fucking. Right. Polyamorous, whatever you're into. That's like we couldn't get the actors, not at that price range, but we got a bunch of actors.
Yeah, it just turns into a search bar at that point. Oh God, that's funny. All right. Who else is in this division? The Atlanta Falcons, they're in this division. Over-under is 9.5. Yeah, they brought in Kirk Cousins. They drafted Michael Penix and didn't play him in the preseason past week 1 because fuck you fans, I guess. I don't know. Defensively, though, I mean, a couple notable moves over the past couple weeks, trading for Matt Judon and signing Justin Simmons. I can applaud a team, getting better in that regard. I think that they are going to win this division. I think that they have the best quarterback. I think that they have a good defensive-minded head coach in Raheem Morris, who is getting a second go of it. And I don't think the offense is going to be all that much of a change for Kirk because it's a similar system from Kevin O'Connell and now Zach Robinson. I think that they're going to win the division in a 9-8, 10-7, whatever it may be.
Yeah, and the 9-5 is fine. If you believe that, take the over at 10. Because I think their division odds are really terrible. I'm not going to be able to pull them up very quickly. But they're at like minus 125 or minus 150 because
not great.
Who believes in it all? But I have a very personal rule, and you've heard it, and everyone's heard it. Never, ever, ever bet on the Falcons.
Correct.
Ever. They'll break your heart with over, with under. They will find a way to land right on that number and absolutely shatter your heart.
Yes. Very much so. How do you feel about Tampa? Are you like riding the Baker Mayfield train?
The thought that there's a Baker Mayfield train is terrifying. I mean, I guess he's fine in the system he's in with those receivers who are still very good, with an offensive line that still has a couple of the guys that were brought in to protect Tom Brady. I like the young running back they brought in. I like Bucky Irving a lot. I saw a little bit of him in the preseason. But, explain to me why I should care about – the biggest issue right now with this team is the pass rush.
Yeah.
But I don't know, besides Vita Vea, who's on that line, who's going to provide consistent pass rush. The secondary is good, but they lost some guys, et cetera. Give me a scenario where I'm supposed to give a crap about this team.
Sure. By the way, the over-under is 7.5. I think that losing Dave Canales will be a big loss too for the offense.
We had Brian Knowles on the Aaron Schatz podcast with me, and he actually did the numbers how often the Buccaneers did run, pass.
Oh, wow.
Handoff and second, like your high school coach.
Yeah.
JV. Handoff, throw. Handoff, throw. Not because Derrick Henry was around or, whatever, but because that's the way. And it was like they were first in the NFL and had the highest number probably since 77 or something like that. And so, there's things about Canales, I liked and, were impressive, but, the play calling, a
little bit weird.
Yeah. So I don't know. So 7.5, I don't care.
That's a good. I think that's kind of my opinion on the entire NFC South. Is just I don't care. None of these teams are going to matter in January to me.
And again, I'm looking up the Panthers right now because maybe there's something fun way down in the mire.
It's over under 5.5 at minus 124.
Oh my God, 5.5.
That's brutal.
But that's the number. I can't sense myself going over on that. I can't.
I don't know if I can either. I think 5-12 might be that would be considered a success for this team too. If you can get 2 more wins, or I think it'd be 2 more wins than they did, 3 more wins than they did the year before. That's good first step.
I was happy to see Bryce Young play. That was nice.
Yeah. If Bryce Young looks fine, great job all around.
Yeah. I refer to it as the Minshewization of Bryce Young, where it's like, well, like maybe the idea that this is a Russell Wilson or Kyler Murray in training might be a little bit of a heavy lift right now. But the idea he can make plays off of structure because he is a very heads-up guy and he has to move around the pocket to see what's going on, but he can loft the ball. Maybe you get a better version of Minshew and you can work with that.
Yeah.
Maybe. You tease it down to 4.5 and you have to go over your minus 225. At that point, you have to do like a garbage panda parlay.
Yeah.
Of like them and the Giants and some other team you think is going to stink, and do that if you want to see Marvel fucking or whatever. You might also be into garbage panda parlays of that nature, and then I'm not going to yuck your yum.
Oh, that's funny.
We really fall off the rails here.
I mean, that's going to be the clip that we use to get people in on this show. Marvel. That covers the NFC. Are you taking the 49ers or the field to get to the Super Bowl?
I'll play the field on that one. Do we have a number on that?
I don't. That was just a question I had in my head.
Yeah, because when you start talking, like I was talking earlier on podcasts and everything, most of the scenarios for like getting the Rams or the Seahawks up into the playoffs involve, well, you start with nuking the 49ers from space. Comet comes this team so that they're obliterated on that level. But you don't need that for the field. You don't need that for, they come up short against the Lions, who almost beat them last year.
Sure.
Or, they come up short against the Eagles or the Cowboys. And you don't need that to get to, well, Shanahan coached himself into a corner tactically in the fourth quarter of a big game in the playoffs. And so with all of those scenarios, I'm fine taking the field over the 49ers.
Are the 49ers your pick in general, or do you have somebody else in mind that you think is going to make it out of the NFC?
Well, and I've got it all queued up now because I'll go on these radio shows. Like, give me your Super Bowl pick. And I used to stammer. Like, for 12 years, I stammered because, like, my thing is, well, 49ers Chiefs. What happened last year? Well, 49ers Bills, I switched it up. I'm going with Lions Texans.
Oh, that would be – I think America would love that. I would love that. That would be good. I'm in.
New people to root for. You like everybody. Everyone's root forable.
Yeah.
You got young new faces. You got some people coming back. You got D'Amico Ryans, who's cool. You got Dan Campbell, who's an interesting dude overall. And you got all these new faces, teams with good offensive lines, teams with great defensive players. Stephon Diggs will be mad about something, so that gives you that quadrant's taken care of. Fun. I don't know how much I believe it. I believe the odds of that happening are plus 2,200 or something like that.
Right.
But it's different. It's fun to talk about.
That's a very good one. In terms of like the matchups I've heard so far, I think I would be perfectly okay with that.
Where you going?
Green Bay out of the NFC. My heart will keep saying Buffalo. My head leans Cincinnati or Kansas City. But in the light of like not wanting to just pick chalk and pick the Chiefs, I would probably lean the Bengals a little bit just because I think overall roster-wise they're a little bit better than the Bills. But eventually my Lord and Savior Joshua Patrick Allen will get over the hump and get to one, and it'll be a glorious day when that does happen.
Hope springs eternal.
It really does, and it will lead to eternal heartbreak if he does not. What do you have coming over on 2 Deep Zone?
Well, right now, if you can go in there and check it out, I'm trying to throw a little cold water on all the Eagles' optimism right now. Not so much emanating from Philly because we are all fatalists who hate life here. But you got guys like Skip Bayless, who we despise picking the Eagles. We have the rapper Wale, who we love.
Okay.
A lifelong Commanders fan, picking the Eagles. So I throw a little water on that. Later in the week also, it's kind of like Eagles week. It's almost like I'm trying to like get a lot of my friends and neighbors to subscribe to my Substack. It's the top 5 quarterbacks of Eagles history. You want to talk about love being dashed? I got your Jaworski stories. I got your Cunningham stories. I got your McNabb stories all queued up, and that comes later in the week.
Oh, where's Kevin Cobb fall on that list? It's gotta be.
You're gonna get me started on Kevin Cobb rants. That's a weird place to be. He does not make the top 10. The Eagles have a very good history of quarterbacks.
They do.
Right. It's hard getting Nick Foles onto the list. It honestly is. He doesn't crack the top 10. But you've got guys like Sonny Jurgensen, who's a Hall of Famer, who played for the Eagles for like 5 years. You got Michael Vick. You got all these guys who are like underneath that plateau of McNabb and them. So
Good stuff all around. If you want to read some of my work, everybody listening, I did a long form piece on the Jaguars and why I am high on Trevor Lawrence and why everybody was a little bit harsh on the poor boy. So go and read that over on Sporting News, as well as piece I did about the Cowboys, long form piece I did about the Bills, long form piece I did about the Chiefs. There's lots of good stuff over there. And then I'm currently in the middle of writing something that's going to make Ravens fans very angry, but that is okay. That'll be up in the coming days as well. So that'll be a lot of fun. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel and you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to the channel and get to, I think, what are we at? Like a little bit over 1,200. Get us to 13 before the end of the month. So lovely stuff all around. Mike, I always enjoy doing this with you, my friend. It always does go off the rails, but it's always very funny. And I enjoy doing this with you. I will talk to you very soon, and I love you very much. And I hope you have a good night.
Take care, everybody. Enjoy your weekend and go Porno Marvel.
At Porno Marvel for the win. Have a good one, everybody.